We're sitting at 20 minutes away from the top of the hour. If you did not know, realestate.co.nz's monthly report on the current state of the property market is, of course, letting us know what is in store for us Kiwis, whether or not we're buying or we're selling. So it's been released, and joining us on the show this morning to talk a little bit more about it is, of course, the spokesperson, Vanessa Williams. And with that, I say, Morena, and welcome to the show this morning.
Morena, again, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, Vanessa. I mean, it's great to, talk about things in regards to buying and selling, but what does the actual monthly report itself really show for us?
Well, what's been really interesting, there was, if we go back to pre-COVID levels, and there was a whole bunch of sort of predictions around the market's going to crash and it's going to be a real challenge. And actually, we've seen the exact opposite over the past 2 years. We saw prices rise. Kiwis weren't able to travel, so there was quite a lot of focus on property. But, 2022 has shifted. And that is the beauty of a property market, is that it does change. And 2022 has not only seen prices cool, but we've also seen a big increase in the number of homes available for sale. Because if you've read the news over the past 2 years, it's like there's not enough homes, not enough homes, not enough homes. But that is what's changed, Aggie, as we've seen the increase in supply.
So then again, for one who was wanting to buy, one who's wanting to sell, where do we sit in the stats?
It's what's great about that is, so it can look a little bit nerve-wracking if you're a seller and you're thinking, goodness, are prices going to drop? Are they going to burst? There's a lot of sort of, I call it scaremongering sometimes, that you can read in the news. And look, all of the data is suggesting that that is not the case. Wow. Yes, prices are softening, but what I will say is that we've been in an unsustainable market for the past 2 years. So it's been really challenging for Kiwis. So I wouldn't get too worried if you are looking to sell. Yes, you'll need to sort of rethink perhaps those really high price expectations. But what I do say is, if you're a seller, typically you sell your home, then you become a buyer. So if you're in a stable market, what that means is that you can sell your home and buy with confidence that you're not going to sort of have a delta of $50, $100, $200,000 in a matter of sort of 3 months. So it actually works quite well. Now, if you are a buyer, lots more stock means you've got lots more choice.
Okay.
So that's always nice. If you're making one of the biggest purchases of your life, right? You want to be able to choose something nice.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I'm thinking. How affordable though, Vanessa, are homes around the country? I mean, we can become very Auckland centric, right, with the prices. But if you're wanting to buy outside of Auckland, where should we be looking?
That is a great question. And what's really interesting is that it really does differ right around New Zealand, and not only from sort of around regional towns. So if you look at, I always say that the most cost effective, bar West Coast, which, can be a little bit isolated, but bar the West Coast, the beautiful land of Southland is our most cost effective region. That sort of sits around just under $500,000 mark in the Southland region. But again, that will differ depending on where you are in the Southland region. And, and what I would say is that there is actually an opportunity in every market. Yeah. You've just got to be willing to look. And I hear you on the Auckland centric thing. I mean, personally, I couldn't afford to buy in Auckland, my first home. So I actually bought in Hawke's Bay.
Wow.
Because I went, how can I get onto the property ladder? Having a massive love for property myself, I was like, how can I make this work? So, I personally tried the Hawke's Bay first before I could sort of get into the Auckland market. So I do recommend looking around New Zealand. There are some fantastic opportunities out there. And with prices softening, it gives you a bit more stability when you're looking.
Again, and you touched on that, whether or not you were able to, not afford a house in Auckland. Because the reality is, like, even, we want to, maybe hopefully you can share and touch on how us as Pacific people, how we can get onto that property ladder. I look at myself, I'm just going to throw you a little bit of a scenario. Obviously myself, would love to get onto that, someone who would be earning between, I suppose, 50 to 100K, anywhere between there. I'm a single mother, I've got 2 children. I'm thinking, what's the reality? Where am I looking to, besides having a little bit of savings, what should I be doing to try and get onto that property ladder?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what I would say is that I was really heartened when I saw the budget come out last time from the government,
Mm,
because what happened is that there are first home buyer grants, but because of the way property prices were going,
yeah.
it did sort of make it unobtainable, because you could sort of get a grant, but it wasn't going to afford you a house. And
Mm,
so that, in terms of what looking at options that you can do, is that how do you have friends or whānau that you could sort of go in with and look at a perhaps
absolutely.
a property,
Yeah, I think that might
and
be my
come together,
option. Yeah.
yeah, come together as a community and think about how can we pull together to bring our pools and our resources together. I mean, personally, I've got someone who works with me in my team,
Mm,
and he actually went in with four friends for a property up in Northland,
wow.
and and they sort of got a roster about who will do what and how it will sort of happen, because he was, again, a single guy, and
Mm,
sort of went, how am I going to make this sort of happen? And so it's sort of about how can you pull resources together,
mm,
and be a community sort of focused property. And it doesn't always, what I do say is, a lot of sort of situations you look at thinking, I need to buy the house that I'm actually living in. And as someone
yes.
personally who hasn't done that,
Mm,
how else can you look at opportunities? Is there land perhaps that you could look at purchasing first, and then over the years build
mm,
to sort of suit the whānau, or community that you have purchased that land with? So, and
yeah.
Kiwis, we are super, we're super creative about how we solve problems. We're sort of right down the bottom of the
Yeah,
world. That number eight wire mentality is certainly
absolutely.
strong.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
wouldn't, look at property like that as well. How else
Mm,
can we be
mm.
creative around solving this problem?
I like that. I like that, Vanessa. So, really, how can I suppose, our Pacific people communities keep up to date with the market itself?
And that is, I totally recommend. So there's a few things I would say, is that if you're really focused in an area that you would really like to purchase in, make friends with the local real estate agent.
Mm,
They have a wealth of knowledge in this area. And I mean, if you go to an open home, they'll ring you and call you. So, why not, if you're like, right, I want to buy in this area, I want to
yeah.
understand what's happening, I want to be top of mind if there's sort of a first home that comes available, make sure that you're well known to that local real estate agent.
Yep.
The second piece is, make sure you understand what's coming onto the market in the area you're interested in.
Mm,
So you can do that by setting up alerts for new listings, and
yeah.
that will help you to sort of see instantly what's coming onto the market and what price point are they at.
Nice.
And then the second piece I would say is, set up alerts for those properties that you've saved, that you think, do you know what, this is a good property, something I could look at. But as an example, it might be selling by auction, and you're not quite got your ducks in a row to purchase by auction.
Mm,
But if you set up alerts on like our platform, realestate.co.nz, we'll message you if that changes from an auction to a price. And then you can sort of go, okay, now I can sort of see what's happening. So I think that's a great advice there, Aggie. Make
yeah.
sure that you understand the market that you're buying in, and there's lots of information out there.
Absolutely, because to be honest, it can seem very daunting when you don't really
Mm.
understand the market. So, Vanessa, as we wrap up, I'd love to know just what would be your key message to all our listeners who are tuning in this morning, for someone who just wants to get onto the property market. What should they really be looking out for?
My first advice, apart from what you're looking out for, is please don't give up.
Mm,
Like, I know it can be a really challenging sort of scenario and situation, but what I would say is, who have you got that's in your corner that, when you've gone to a few open homes, you get yourself down, you can call and go, no, come on, Aggie, we're back on the ladder, we're going to
mm,
look next weekend. So find your cheerleaders, find your friends and whānau who are going to look out for you. But
nice.
honestly, my piece of advice tangibly is, just really get to know your market. Don't be
Mm,
afraid to speak to a real estate agent. Don't be afraid to talk to people who've bought previously and understand their journey, because
yeah.
the more people that you talk to, the better understanding you have, and the more confidence you'll have in a market. And it is such a joyous occasion when you do sign that piece of paper and get those keys. So please don't give
Mm,
up,
mm.
and just go and talk to lots of people.
I love that, Vanessa. Look, it has been such an insight, and really thank you so much for your wisdom on that this morning. I'm definitely going to keep in touch with you, because
Please
I,
do.
alongside so many people, I feel like we could. It is like you said, don't give up. We really want to be able to get onto that property ladder. So again, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
You are very